It had been months of grueling preparation, long nights of research, and buying all sorts of alchemical weapons just in case. But after it all came down to this dark, stormy night. Slowly, one step after another, they came. Hello? Uh, Mr. Investigator? That's right. They thought they had coming for that pizza I ordered, but I knew the truth. I came with your extra large sausage. What a fool. They thought they'd be getting a tip, but the only tip they'd be getting is my blade as I prepare my strike. Rolled a 2. All right, next round. As I hid in the shadows. Hello? Oh, table's empty. I wonder if they're not here. I hid in the shadows, and on my turn, I got ready to deliver a single blow. They would be over before they even. Rolled a 5. These dice are cursed. All right, I guess I'll just leave it here. Nah, probably not. Don't worry. But because of this, I had laid traps at the doorway. Thanks to my incredible recall knowledge, I knew exactly their weaknesses. What do you mean I rolled a 1 on the recall? They're good at reflex? All right, I'll just flip over that wire someone put out again. I'll put it by the door. Crap. We'll get him next time. After all, preparation is key, right? For an investigator. All right, it's finally here, everyone. Investigator. This is Practical Pathfinder's guide on building an investigator. Masters of knowledge, preparation, and party planning. They're essentially like a rogue, like a thief-style character, but an expert in knowing things in advance. Masters who never miss a shot because they know their attacks before they even throw them, and specialize in using mountains of skills. I won't lie, not one of my favorite classes. Every time I played with one, it's been cursed, but that doesn't mean you won't enjoy it. Investigator, as we said, is a skill-focused class. It specializes in its devise a stratagem ability, allowing it to know what the attack roll you're going to make is on a target before you make it. They combine this with pursue a lead, allowing them to create investigations into questions, giving them bonuses on skill checks, and most importantly, giving them that devise a stratagem, that free attack roll ahead of time, letting them do that for free. It's a lot of fun when it works, and in practice, they're similar to rogues, but they're specialists of ranged attacks. Notably, they don't need their enemy off guard, so they're really good at ranged attacks compared to melee, and as intelligence characters, they get just gobs of skills and really can take a lot of powerful archetypes out of the bat. While they're a little weaker than a rogue in combat, you can really spice them up with some good archetype usage, and frankly, Investigator's a class min-maxed for that role-playing, for that investigation. They're very specific in the kinds of settings they excel in, but boy, are they good if you need a detective in your game. And again, you might ask, Lord Generic, why do you dislike Investigator yourself? It's not that it's a terrible class. It's totally viable, totally works. It just has never impressed me, and every investigator I have personally played with did terribly, and the luck just turned against them. With that said, they got quite a few unique perks. On their advantages, devise a stratagem allows them to use their intelligence stat to hit. Notably, this is the only way in the game to use a mental stat to roll on your strikes. It's the only way, and that's pretty cool. And devise a stratagem means you know when you're going to land a hit. That's great. Problem is, Investigator itself doesn't have a plan for when you land a hit. All you can do is basic strikes with some bonus sneak attack style damage. If you want fancy multi-action hits or big flashy confirms, you're going to need to look into archetypes, or at the very least, splash some cash for some alchemical ammunition. There's ways around it, but you're gonna have to plan for that. Now, because they know if they're gonna hit or not, and they only really throw one attack a turn, investigators are very flexible. They can do a lot of things on their turn and make use of all of their skills, particularly recall knowledge. They are an absolute expert on. They're just so darn good at it. But as we said, the investigator feats, I'll just say it, they're kind of bad. There's a few good ones, but for the most part, I think they're kind of bad. And if you want good non-strike, non-basic attack related options, you're looking at archetypes again. So most investigator builds we'll talk about today are using archetypes heavily because that's just the nature of this class. But they are great at using ranged weapons as a great aside. Unlike rogues who struggle to get off guard and land ranged sneak attacks, Investigator is really the pick if you want to be a ranged thief character, allowing you to just be like, can I hit that guy off an arrow? Yeah? No? Alright, take the shot. And then just do other things, be that casting guidance, buffing your teammates, debuffing an enemy with a bon mot or demoralize. They got a lot of use there. However, you're really going to want to keep that bow in hand because 8 HP a level and terrible fortitude saves means your investigator will go down fast in close combat. Poison rolls are rough, buddy. Oh boy, they're going to hurt. You do get a lot of skills though. As we said, Bon Mon, Demoralized for mental skills, loads of recall knowledge. The downside is your intelligence focused stat, and you're probably pumping your dexterity to +3 just to start your character. It's the only real viable way. It's just the nature of how the class works. And that means a lot of skills are kind of rough for you as an investigator. It's hard to invest into a lot of skills like athletics or charisma skills. It's hard to make that stat budget. So you can spam a lot of skills, but don't necessarily expect to be the best at them. You simply have a lot of skills, you aren't actually that good at them half the time. Now you're gonna level a lot of skills, but your stats are still kind of rough. Now, they do work as incredible healers. Investigator has one of the best subclasses in the game for a non-magical healer, a battle medicine and medicine skill focused healer character. If that's what you want, if you want to play that kind of field medic who doesn't use magic, Investigator is probably one of your best choices outside of Alchemist. And let's be honest, Alchemist is basically using magic. They're really good at that, undeniably so. The Forensic Investigator is one of my personal favorites and one of the ones I'd recommend you consider. But as nice as these skills are, do remember you do rely on devise a stratagem that adds specific precision damage to your hits. Much like a rogue sneak attack, anything with precision immunity just ruins your day. Oozes, ghosts, things that don't have weak points, you're gonna have a rough time. You're gonna have a rough time. And as nice as having recall knowledge is, make sure you pair your investigator with characters like alchemists or casters with a wide range of spells or elemental damage spells like a druid or a wizard. Because guess what? I've seen this. Sometimes your knowledge character says, got it. This guy's got a weak fortitude save, everyone. And the party looks at him and goes, I don't have a fortitude targeting attack. Do you guys target fortitude? And they're all like, nah, I'm just going to hit him. And you're like, why am I even speccing into intelligence? So make sure your investigator works in a party who can make use of knowing things, a party with a bit of versatility built into them. And we do get a lot of options on the party. As the skill-focused range character, Investigator very naturally slots into a backline and supportive role. That means you're going to want a strong front line, a champion, a monk, a barbarian, or a fighter. You want big, beefy boys who can take a hit and exchange a blow on your team, because boy, you're not going to do it. And likewise, you're going to want energy damage dealers like alchemists and spellcasters. who can target lots of saving throws and throw out lots of damage types, because when you can tell them the weakness, you need your ally to be able to actually make use of that knowledge. If you have a caster who says, I only use fire spells because I'm role-playing a pyromancer, Investigator isn't going to mesh well with that character, because all you yourself have surprisingly little versatility outside of simply knowing weaknesses. You struggle to trigger those on your own, which is why we buy some alchemical ammunition of different types. Haha, hint hint. Not all teammates are good for you, right? You're already a skill character, you're already a precision damage dealer. Let's not team up with rogues and swashbucklers and even precision rangers. They often are also skill-focused characters that do precision damage. If you all have a ton of skills, you're investing a lot of party power budget into overlap. There isn't really a need for everyone to have the same skills. And if you run into a ghost or something, precision immune, you're gonna cry. The whole party's just gonna fall apart. Not to mention that as a knowledge-focused character, you're not gonna want other knowledge-focused characters on the team. Investigator's biggest strength is their incredible recall knowledge abilities, but so is Thaumaturge's and some versions of Bard with Enigma Muse and Rangers using the Monster Hunter line, even the Lore Master archetype. Don't be in a party with people using the classes or subclasses, because you're gonna have two knowledge characters, and why? Why does a party need that, right? It's less anti-synergistic and more you're filling a role that's already been filled at that point. Who do we make our investigator? What makes a good detective? Well, they're kind of fragile, they don't have great reactions, and they like ranged attacks. So, with that, orcs are a great pick. High HP and the orcish ferocity reaction helps you stay up in combat. When you take a lethal blow, you can simply not get knocked out once a day, or sometimes more often at higher levels. Great, because you just don't use reactions as investigator, at least by default. Dwarves, again, they're really tough. They got high HP, strong defenses. Strong Blood Dwarf in particular helps you with your terribly weak poison saving throw. And if you want to play a gun investigator, Dwarf is kinda amazing with Explosive Savant giving you access to advanced firearms. That's not bad. And last, Halflings. You don't need a strength penalty. That doesn't matter for you as an investigator. Just don't use a compound bow. Use a basic short bow. You're off to the races. And halfling luck, oh, it's so good. Letting you re-roll a saving throw once a day, even if you use it only for that. That's top tier stuff. Now, in terms of stats, you're really going to want to max out intelligence, followed by dexterity and constitution. So aim for +4 intelligence, if possible, +3 dexterity, and con, might have to sit at +1. If you can get that up to +2, that'd really help, because you're not that tough, but you are probably going to have to fight. Equipment-wise, we get light armor, so take a chain shirt. I know leather would be nicer, because you don't want that stealth penalty, but as an intelligence character, you really can't afford a high strength. Really can't. So it's hard to use studded leather without penalties. You may as well take a chain shirt until you can get +4 dex at level 5, or maybe level 10 if you started with a +2 dex. Ouch. Grab a short bow as probably your general best in slot ranged weapon. Note, not a composite short bow. Unless you have +2 strength, there's no reason to use a composite bow. And you're going to want some kind of melee. Some kind of melee as a backup. Rapiers are a great melee choice. Solid, good hits, good crits. Very good synergy on a character who only makes one attack a turn anyways as an investigator. But if you want an open hand weapon, and your game master lets you get your hands on this uncommon tool, the Bladed Gauntlet is a great finesse gauntlet option giving you a D4 of different damage types, and it's free hand, so you can use it with your bow out. Nice and easy. Consumables are a big thing, though, for Investigator. We couldn't even write them all down here. You're going to want to buy Insight coffees. These are huge, especially alchemical investigators or alchemist archetype players are going to want to be making these bad boys all the time. This is a drink that buffs your recall knowledge, but more importantly, increases strategic strike damage from D6 to D8. In other words, your sneak attack equivalent gets a damage bump. That's a big deal, and that's going to make you feel a lot more impactful whenever you drink a nice foamed latte or two. And as an intelligence character, you're going to be taking trick magic item. You're going to be using a lot of magical tools to expand your versatility, and if we're doing that, you're picking up a Wand of Tailwind at level 2 and a Wand of Anthaul. A rank 2 Tailwind lasts for 8 hours, so does Anthaul. That'll buff your carry weight and your move speed. Great long-term buffs for any enterprising detective or thief. After that, pick up some scrolls. You want scrolls. There's all sorts. If you don't know what kind of scrolls to pick, as someone who knows like every knowledge skill, that's a tough one for you as an investigator. But consider my many spell recommendation videos. We've recommended every spell list except for Divine. I'm getting to it eventually. And then I'll show you what to bring. Consider low-level scrolls ranks 1, 2, maybe rank 3 in particular. They're dirt cheap and pretty good. After that, yeah, we're still done. I ran out of room. Buy some alchemical ammunition. They're real cheap. It's an activated piece of ammunition. You have to spend 1 action to activate it, but it lets you fire off rounds that do a point of splash and persistent in the energy damage of choice. Grab a nice, drop 15 gold, pick up 5 fire shots, ice shots, and lightning shots. If nothing else, great way to hit common weaknesses. It's not like they're expensive. It's not like they're heavy. You're going to want to carry these on you. In terms of skills, well, Investigator gets tons of skills. You're basically going to know almost every skill. So what we actually recommend here, and this is going to be weird, don't invest skills into the classic knowledge skills. So don't bother investing skill points, unless it's character appropriate, of course, into occultism, religion, or nature. Arcana, we're going to want that for trick magic item, but for the others, I wouldn't even bother. The reason is that you get a special trait. At level 3 called Keen Recollection. Keen Recollection allows you to recall knowledge as if you knew the specific lore with any lore skill ever at a whim. Now, talk to your game master, make sure they're okay with this interpretation, because if not, don't play Investigator. Thaumaturge is straight up better. I'm not actually joking in this case, but what this means is you don't need religion. You don't need to say, dang, I need to make an occultism roll for that ghost. I'm going to look at the game master and say, hey, I'm going to use lore that ghost specifically and make a roll check, make a lore check. And there we go. Because it's a specific lore, the DC, the challenge of rolling, should be 5 points lower, according to how recall knowledge is intended to work. What this means is you are effectively rolling like you were between expert and master on all knowledge ever from level 3 on. You're really good at knowing things. But in practice, if you don't use this interpretation, straight up bad. You're just a bad class. But with that said, you don't need to spend skills on knowledge, so pick up Arcana for trick magic item, the best skill feat you got, and outside of that, you're going to want to do thief things. Stealth and thievery, because you're the main dex and skill monkey, that's just how it is. Medicine, because you got tons of skill feats and skills, you may as well become the team healer. Pick up acrobatics for escaping stuff. Athletics if you can afford it. Always nice to be able to climb and swim. And if anyone's going to do crafting, it may as well be you. As the resident knowledge character, you may as well be the one to repair equipment. You're basically going to pick up everything that's not a knowledge skill. As an investigator, you're getting a lot of skill feats. You get an extra skill feat every other level. That's every odd level, you get an extra skill feat, and every even level, you get an extra skill. So you're getting just tons of these things. But note, unlike Rogue, who can level it in anything, they can put their skills anywhere, you are a little more limited. Your extra skill feats have to be on mental skills. So no athletics, no acrobatics, yes to intelligence, wisdom, and charisma skills. So diplomacy, intimidation, all the knowledge skills, arcana, occultism, religion, and medicine. So that's why we pump medicine. But pick up trick magic item as soon as you can. This lets you use wands and scrolls, upping your versatility massively. If you're going medic, you're going to want battle medicine, ward medic, and continual recovery is your standard healing suite. Quiet allies is really good. Pick this up. What this does is it means you now roll stealth as a party with the worst person's stealth roll as they follow the expert. So they get a small bonus. They get to use their base level. This sounds bad. It's a big deal because statistically, if I roll 4 dice for 4 party members to do a stealth roll, one of you is going to roll badly. And if one of you rolls badly, they get caught. And if, let's be honest, you're a party. If one person gets caught, everyone gets caught. You may as well make it one roll. At least then you can use hero points to re-roll it, right? And acrobatics, since you're good at it, boy, catfall and kip up are right there. And catfall, you won't take fall damage. Kip up, you're basically immune to the prone condition. That's good stuff. General feats, though, pretty normal. Pretty normal. Improved initiative is nice to go first. Toughness, you're not a very durable class. And fleet, this lets you move quickly. Pretty standard. The only real notable things are canny acumen as usual at high levels, I mean like level 17 and above, to bump that fortitude up to master, and true perception. As an investigator, you are legendary in perception, so true perception lets you get an effective permanent rank 6 true sight spell on you. Not bad, but there's one thing I need to call out in particular: robust health. Robust health is a fun general feat that makes you get healed more from battle medicine and medicine checks. And it makes you immune to battle medicine for only 1 hour instead of 1 day when you get healed. That's really good for frontliners. Tell your party to not take this if you play forensic medicine investigator. If you're the medic investigator, you already get an effect where your battle medicine is only 1 hour immunity instead of a day. So robust health, the biggest benefit of it, you already have that. Don't take this feat. It's not going to benefit you. All right, so before we move on to feats, before we move on to the meat of the investigator build, I'm just going to say it. We're going to cover a few feats. Most of them are bad. But only early investigator feats are generally worth taking. Most of them are mediocre to bad. So we're going to look at archetypes. You're going to be going into archetypes if you want to play investigator. I would say this is the one class where it's almost required to be good. But as an intelligence character, boy howdy, you got some insane picks. Your big one is Eldritch Archer. That's right, I fooled you. This is not an investigator build. This is an Eldritch Archer build. This is an Eldritch Archer showcase. It is the best archetype for investigator, in my opinion. You already want to use a bow. You already know if you're going to hit before you shoot. It just has perfect synergy with an archetype that allows you to fire magical cantrips and magical spells in your arrow to combine the damage. It's so good. It's so amazingly good together. If you don't want it though, tons of options. Magus is great, giving you some extra spells, some extra cantrips, and if you want to play melee, I do not recommend melee investigator, but if you want to, This gives you that one guaranteed hit on your spell strike that you get once a fight. That's going to make you feel good. Real mages wish they had that. It's Investigator's a popular archetype on Magus. Who knew? Psychic is a great support pick, taking an enhanced cantrip and just extra spellcasting. As Investigator, spellcasting is always appreciated, but in particular, the Frostbite cantrip is really good for damage-focused players. If you miss your shot, your devise a stratagem tells you, oh, you can't land this shot. You go, okay, that's fine. Frostbite, right? You just hit them with that Frostbite from Psychic. You get that Fortitude save. It's not an attack. Remember, devise a stratagem locks in your attack roll. So anything that's not an attack, like a saving throw, well, that's okay. You can just run that. Or, what I prefer more, take the enhanced guidance cantrip with Psychic, and now you can turn ally misses into hits. Enhanced guidance allows you to ask your game master, my buddy missed an attack or failed that saving throw. Would a +1 put it over the edge? Because you could only use it when it would matter. Super strong, super strong. And last, for the gun-loving investigators out there, Gunslinger is a really good synergy, giving you some big low-level feats. Munitions Crafter gives you those free alchemical ammo and bombs. You're really good with bombs as Investigator, because you always know if you hit or not, so you know if you should pull out a debuff bomb and throw it. It's also, a lot of energy damage types, good for someone who knows weaknesses. Risky Reload is really good because it allows you to fire an unloaded gun, and with devise a stratagem, you know if you're going to hit. So, you never jam the gun, it's basically free, you don't need to reload. And Alchemical Shot, if you get to level 8 Investigator, that means you can take the level 4 Gunslinger feat, Alchemical Shot. That gives you a nice 2-action big shot when you're going to hit an enemy. You use a bomb, you get energy damage, you get persistent damage. Very good. For the support-minded, we still got good options though. Commander gives you a lot of stratagems, gives you things to do if your spare actions, move the party, give your allies extra attacks, things like that. And the Guiding Shot feat is amazing for any archer, giving you a nice little +1 on your next ally's swing on your target. It adds up. Palatine Detective is actually just normal Investigator. This is a class archetype. This is a class archetype that eats your archetype feat at level 2, but gives you essentially a magic tank Investigator. You gain a defensive reaction and weak spellcasting. Very unusual for Investigator, but hey, if you want weak spellcasting and more defense, Palatine Detective does the job. Void Warp as a divine cantrip is a really nice one as a fortitude save. When you miss your shot, you can still, hit them with testicular torsion and twist them around a little for some fortitude damage. And Alchemist is really, really good for any intelligence character. I'm not going into it. You get tons of free items. It's out of scope for this video. We would be here for hours. I'm not joking. Okay. You have a lot of cool feats at level 1 as Investigator. I'm not mentioning any of them. None of them matter. There's only one level 1 feat that matters. Let me tell you this. If there's anything you take away, you will all take known weaknesses. Known weaknesses is what matters. When you devise a stratagem, you get a free recall knowledge. And if you crit succeed, you get a +1 bonus on your next attack. And your allies get a +1 bonus on their next attacks. Holy crap. It's action compression every round. This gives you 4 actions a round, guaranteed essentially, possibly 5 if you're getting your devise for free, and giving team-wide to hit bonuses. No other feat is anywhere close to known weaknesses. This is the best Investigator feat, and it comes in at level 1. Yes, I'm aware of how sad that is. At level 2, we get another feat. This is probably where you're taking an archetype. This is usually where you take your dedication and pick the archetype you want to go into. However, if you're doing Eldritch Archer, if you're doing Eldritch Archer specifically, that archetype only starts at level 6. So you will need to take a level 2 and level 4 feat that are not archetypes, because archetype rules, for those unaware, when you take an archetype, when you take a dedication, you have to take at least 2 more feats in that archetype. You must pick at least 2 other things before you are allowed to take another different archetype. So, we don't want to do that. If you're Eldritch Archer, you're gonna want a level 2 feat, and Shared Stratagem is probably the one to go. Shared Stratagem, when you hit with Devise a Stratagem, your target is now off guard to the next attack an ally makes against that creature. Really good stuff. Extra debuffs, extra team support, works well as your less combat focused, more supportive, knowledge and skill focused character. Level 4, once again, as an archetype character, you're probably taking your archetype, but for those Eldritch Archer users, we do get some neat level 4 focused feats for the different types of investigator. For alchemical investigators, alchemical discoveries is great. You get extra alchemical items for free. Extra alchemical items, 1, 2, or 3 based on your crafting skill. That's nice to have. That's very nice to have. 3 items is extra power in the budget and in the bank. So alchemical investigators, pick that one up for sure, for certain. And otherwise, detective's readiness is a great defensive pick, giving you a bonus on your saving throws against creatures related to your investigations. Frankly, in my opinion, I would expect most things you're fighting to be related to your investigations. That's just kind of what investigators built to be doing. So it's really nice having detective's readiness in terms of your defenses. For those more knowledge focused, strategic assessment is a decent pick, giving you the option to get more information from your enemy whenever you hit them with your devise a stratagem. More and more info never hurt. Level 6, let's be honest, you're taking an archetype. You're taking either Eldritch Archer dedication, if that's what you were doing, or you're going deeper into the archetype of your choice, whatever you picked at level 2. We're not even going to cover the investigator feats. like they're just not as good as archetypes. At level 8, though, we do get Blind Fight. Blind Fight's a really good feat. It's not rare, it's not unique to Investigator, it's common for anyone good at perception, but it's great for fighting invisible and hidden enemies. You don't need a flat check for concealed creatures, you're better at hitting invisible creatures, and you're not off guard automatically when things are hidden from you. That's great, that'll keep you alive and make you better at fighting tough invisible encounters. If you have gone into your archetype at level 2, and you've gotten your feats, you don't really care for other options, yeah, Blind Fight's on the table. Otherwise, as per usual, we're doing, your archetype stuff. I'm just gonna stop. Well, I'm gonna keep saying it I gotta say it every level. Because, hey, guess what? Level 10, you probably still want archetypes. For the Eldritch Archers out there, what I personally recommend, pick up a Chanting Shot at level 8 to give you a nice option to loose a lower action arrow when you need to move or do something else, so you don't only have a 3 action choice. And Eldritch Spellcasting is, hey, free spellcasting, right? And archetypes, as always, pick one up if you got one. If you got nothing, take Suspect of Opportunity. It's a nice option to just be like, hey, something took a swing on me. All right, this guy's my investigation. If you play a campaign where you often don't know or can't predict what fights you, this is a pretty useful pick. It feels bad because it's really just grease to get the wheels that is your class functioning. But if you need that grease, here it is. Now, at level 12, we actually do get some decent options. We actually get some decent options here for your investigator that aren't archetype based. Crazy, I know. Just as Planned gives you, that's right, at level 12, you get the amazing power to effectively cast Sure Strike once an hour. As a free action, when you devise a stratagem, you get to roll the d20 twice, take the higher result. Note, Devise a stratagem is a fortune effect. It has the fortune tag and trait. That means True Strike, also known as Sure Strike, does not stack with Devise a stratagem. This allows you, just as planned, allows you to get both effects. That is legitimately very powerful, but only if you have a really big action to combine it with, be that in a Gunslinger's Alchemical Shot, a Magus's Spell Strike, or an Eldritch Archer's Eldritch Shot. You're really going to need one of those to make use of this. For the investigators out there, Surgical Shock is an alternative. It is a melee alternative to attacking. If your attack roll was really bad, if your devise was awful, you can at least do a surgical shock instead, making a medicine check against their fortitude instead of using your attack. And that's a good way to apply some clumsy or stupefied. It's a nice debuff, not the worst thing in the world. Although it feels bad that at level 12, I'm still saying not the worst thing in the world. You know what I mean? And for our alchemical science users, our alchemist investigators, Share Tincture isn't bad. Allows you to quick tincture to make an item and then immediately pass it to an ally, even by throwing it at them. Now, they still have to spend an action to drink it, but yeah, your power budget is like, oh, at level 12, you can hand someone a potion. Woo. At level 14, as always, archetypes are super good if you can take them, but strategic bypass is really worth considering. Strategic bypass, when you hit with your strikes from Devise a Stratagem, you ignore resistance equal to your intelligence modifier for every resistance that would apply. That's a nice way to get another 5 points of damage on your hit, because at higher levels, damage resistance is frankly very common for enemies to have a little bit of it. Level 16, though. Oh, we got it. We got the good stuff, let me tell you. At level 16, you get Didactic Strike. This is the only feat. If you have Shared Stratagem, you know, the level 2 feat, so you might have to go back, retrain something to pick that up. This one rules when you use Shared Stratagem. So reminder, that means when you hit someone with your Devise a Stratagem, so you're going to use this every round when you can land that hit, designate up to 10 allies, and the foe is off guard to the first attack from each ally, and you do an extra, well, they do an extra 2d6 precision damage. You just gave your whole team sneak attack, but better, for free. Heck, it stacks with a rogue with sneak attack. Do not play this class of a rogue on the team, but it does stack. That's really good. Didactic Strike is probably the other best feat for Investigator at level 16. At level 18, you're gonna probably take an archetype, but a lot of archetypes are run a little thin by level 18. You kind of picked up everything that matters, so Trickster's Ace is a pretty solid pick. What this does is it gives you a contingency spell once a day. No, seriously, that's it. You get a contingency spell. Any 4th rank spell of your choice without a cost, and you specify a trigger, a situation, be it initiative is rolled, be it a creature moves adjacent to me, be it a creature attacks me, or I take damage, anything like that, and then you can cast your 4th rank spell. If you don't know what to pick, maybe 4th rank invisibility is good. Dimension Door is a good one to warp away from the threat. Those are decent options, not always the best, but hey. If you need to look through, always check out our guides on Lord Generic RPG. We have guides on all the spell lists. I'll get to Divine eventually. And if you haven't, you don't know where it is, be sure to follow us, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and then you can find them pretty easily. At level 20, let's be honest, archetypes almost never offer something here, so it's up to Just the Facts or everyone's a suspect. Just the Facts is probably the one I'd recommend most, being just funny. You get a permanent extra recall knowledge every turn forever, and your recall knowledges are just like they always work. They're always 1 degree better. You can't get incorrect knowledge. You know when other people get incorrect knowledge, and you know what you roll on recall knowledge. You straight up know how accurate your info is. That's kind of nuts, frankly. I don't know what you're going to do with that much knowledge, but it is really funny. It is funny. And if you don't need it for some reason, then everyone's a suspect is what you take. Now, anyone you interact with for at least 1 minute, you pursue a lead on them in particular. It guarantees you always get free devise a stratagem, basically. The problem with everyone's a suspect is quite simple. If you level to 20, if you're a level 20 investigator, you undoubtedly know how to manage your leads. You know how to manage your cases to get free devise a stratagem. By the time this thing shows up, you just plumb don't need it anymore. Well, there you go. Elementary, isn't it, Sherlock? Wow, that hurt me. Ain't that elementary, Watson? There we go. That's a little better. That's how you make an investigator. It's really not that complicated of a class. You're a skill-focused, low durability, kind of low damage character. Really good in the role-playing, really good at knowing things and investigating. Surprise, surprise. But if you want to feel good in combat, you have no choice but to take archetypes. All the archetypes are good. In a free archetype game, surprisingly, I'd actually say Investigator a little weaker in a free archetype game, because you were taking archetypes anyways. Half of the Investigator feats aren't that good, so you're like, they're okay. The only reason you want free archetype is potentially to take more archetypes faster. I'm not even joking, actually. With that said, if you've loved Investigator, personally, I haven't had good experiences with the class. If you have, please let me know. Let me know if your investigators have been good, bad, if you adore the class. Maybe I'm poo-pooing someone's beloved. I don't want to do that, and I want to know. Turn me around, right? Convince me how cool your class is, how cool your investigator is. I have these character ideas for Investigator I'd love to use, but my experience with the class, I just never want to pick them over something else. I'm just saying, Mastermind Rogue is right there for most players, and for the knowledge obsessed, Thaumaturge does the job very well. It's a tough class to play. I hope you enjoy it, though. I hope this helps you make the best investigator who's practical in the situations you run into, and you just have a good time. Remember, the party game, you play it with friends. We're here to tell stories and enjoy ourselves. All right, I'm Lord Generic, and I'll see you next time.